Well, let's compare him to some of the other United legends, and these are obviously not necessarily attacking players, which you would classify Bruno as. But let's compare the statistics of some of these legendary Manchester United players, whether they're forwards, attacking midfielders, or midfielders, and see how he stacks up against some of those. Not by any means this is an indicator of whether he's a great player or a legend or not, but I think it does, you get some sort of comparison to say, okay, where does the individual stack up if you were to compare. And if we look at this list right now in terms of goal contributions per game, I'm just looking at the last column to say, okay, how does it all come together? RV and Ruud van Nistelrooy, massive contribution in terms of goal, 0.82, pretty much scoring or assisting every other game. Eric Cantona in that era, right? In that era, number of goals per game were relatively lower. And he used to, sometimes play as a sole forward, sometimes used to play as a second striker and all. But in that era, to have a 0.78 goal plus assist comparison, and every time I read about Eric Cantona, I told you I was reading the Mixer, which you got me the book, and the impact of Cantona as is defined. I think maybe Cantona just merits an episode of his own, but definite legend for me. And then Rooney again in a forward role, although back in his career he sort of used to come more in a 10, maybe sometimes in a central midfield sort of a role. But him, Van Persie, both 0.7 goal contribution. Then Dennis Law.
Yeah, I don't think you should discount Rooney having a point 0.7 with 559 games there. I mean, that's just
Absolutely.
crazy stat. And I was just listening to this Zlatan interview in which he said Rooney allowed Ronaldo to be the player he was.
Yes.
With Rooney, all the players around him are better players, and I think that in my eyes made Rooney a player as great because he was explosive when he started for both Everton, United, as well as England. Uh, but and in his fag end of his career, he changed his positions and what yet was still such a great player, such a great reader of the game.
Yeah.
And we have discussed how many times that Rooney was the best defender we know, Rooney was the best leader we know, Rooney is the best attacker we know. If he could play in goalkeeper position, he would have played that brilliantly. That is why Rooney is a legend in my eyes.
I agree. I agree. There's no doubt about the fact that, and he has sacrificed his own position a multiple times, whether it is during the Tevez Ronaldo Rooney combo at the front three. He would sacrifice his position, play left or right or center, whatever is required of him. When Robin Van Persie joined the team, he would play as a number 10 or sometime even step into the central midfield as was required. Even for that matter, much later, I think towards the fag end of his career, when he was, just inching towards the 250 goal mark, I think he was playing central midfield cam at times, right? So he has sacrificed his position multiple times for the better of the club, and expect getting that from a player who has, a mentality like Rooney's, because otherwise he's a very aggressive sort of an individual. He will fight for his rights. He sort of put transfer request a couple of times, etc., because he wanted things on his own terms, etc. So yeah, complete team player. Yeah.
Can I talk about one more Rooney fact which I just picked today? Like in 2010, Rooney was approached by three clubs when he put in his transfer request.
Yeah.
These three clubs were Chelsea, Real Madrid, and Barcelona. He himself said in the interview that he was in for a couple of days, he was very close to Real Madrid, but his heart always wanted to go to Barcelona. Barcelona presented their project with him, and he used to imagine his place with the likes of Lionel Messi, Andres Iniesta, David Villa. Can you just imagine for a second what kind of front line would that have been? Like, wow.
Guardiola was the manager, no, at that point in time.
That is right. And he chose United at that point of time. That makes him
Yeah, I'm sure it has.
in that he is for
I think it also has Sir Alex's influence on the squad written all over it. I don't think he would let go of Ronaldo in 2008 and then Rooney in 2010. So yeah, right. But yeah, I think obviously a legend of the game, legend for Manchester United, Wayne Rooney. But coming back to Bruno Fernandes, amongst all these players, and Cristiano Ronaldo for Manchester United, I mean, I will not even get in his numbers for Real Madrid. He has more than a goal contribution, just goal scoring across 450 games for Real Madrid. So that is just out of the park. But for United, he had a zero point 0.6 goal plus assist contribution. And amongst all of this, Bruno, who has played now 277 games before the Nottingham Forest games, has a 0.64 goal plus assist contribution, which is massive in this team. He's been carrying this
Mhm.
team for last 5 years. This team hasn't been finishing all the chances he's been creating. If we were to look at the stats of the Premier League since he joined, I think only Salah and Son have more goal plus assist contribution, and we know they play as wingers, right? And I think he's on top of the chance creation ahead of Trent Alexander-Arnold and De Bruyne. De Bruyne, obviously, I think over the last couple of years has played much lesser games owing to injuries, etc.
Mhm.
But if the players in front of him were finishing the chances, his numbers would have been through the roof. So that also makes a big, big impact. But just staying on this for now, does it influence your opinion on whether Bruno is a Manchester United legend in any way or form? Or you're like, okay, I get this, but it doesn't really influence my thought process.
I mean, it's been clear, right? His goals and assists have carried us in the last 5 6 years. But again, the table that we are seeing, it is a factor, but it is not a big factor for me because
Yeah.
I find the discussions of goal plus assists a bit reductive, to be very honest, because goal contribution, we know for a fact that an assist could mean anything. Like,
Yeah.
to be very honest, from Bruno, these have usually have been quality assists, and to, there should be much more than we are seeing on the screen right now, assists, because he hasn't had the quality in front of him, and sometimes he has had to take the scruff of the game. I feel he's a bigger player than these numbers, and I say this because he does much more than provide goals plus assists. Right now, if there is a player with the intelligence of managing the pace of the game, that is Bruno Fernandes in our team.
Yeah.
I don't think any other player has that kind of football intelligence. Maybe I see that a bit of that in Kobe Menu, but other than that, no one comes close to Bruno. But so yeah, it does impact my decision a bit. But yeah, let's keep talking. Let's keep talking about other.
Okay, we've compared him to Manchester United legends. Now let's compare him to some of the creative midfielders in the Premier League over the last few, maybe last decade or so, who have been active. The first name that will come to anybody's mind is Kevin De Bruyne, right? His goal contribution or goal plus assist contribution has been 0.68 per game. And now I agree to your argument about assists could mean anything, goals can come from penalties, etc. Maybe De Bruyne hasn't been on penalties and Bruno has been. So all of that makes a difference. But at the end of the day, for a creative midfielder to contribute with goals and assists is the most important thing. So which is where I think, go on, go on.
Tell me something.
Yeah.
Tell me something. KDB has had Haaland in front of him in the last couple of seasons, and before, yeah, Aguero before that. Bruno has had
Anthony Martial, Marcus Rashford, yeah, Rasmus Højlund, and Zugzi.
Mount, Weghorst, for God's sake,
Odion Igalo.
Odion Igalo, and I don't know. Yeah, there you go. I mean, you get it right. Why these stars by themselves independently don't tell us.
No, but the point is,
That being said,
if his stats are still comparable, goes on to show the kind of impact he has had.
yeah,
And
that's
compare him with anybody. I mean, okay, Gerrard and Lampard maybe played more box to box, but Lampard was known for his goal contribution, coming in late into the box and finishing those off. And I mean, you can't, whether it is 0.55 or zero point 0.5, they've done it for like close to 600, 700 games. So I think that makes a huge difference. So I think Bruno is still long way off playing. He has to play for 5 more years for United to get similar number of games, and then We'll see if he is able to last that long. But the only point that I wanted to so this I'll just finish this. The only point that I wanted to bring forth is that creative midfielders, anyways, I think is a dying breed over the last few years. Most of the goal contributions are coming from these inverted forwards or wingers, the form of Salah, Son, Messi was one of those, etc., or the strikers, right? So in this age, with the kind of comparison he has, Bruno Fernandes stands right at the top, even with this team which has been languishing at 8th, 13th, whatever. So I think that does mean a lot, in my opinion.
Agree. Agree. So I was going to ask you, you mentioned that Bruno has completed like 5, 6 years. Yeah. Uh, I think at the beginning of this year, we noticed Bruno had a few bad games, like 2 or 3 bad games, and we kept talking if and he had a row of these bad games. Remember, I think there were 5 or 6 games in a row,
Yeah.
and we kept asking each other like, "Are we going to get the Bruno back?" And we had the belief that he will come back.
Yeah.
The question which I'm trying to ask you is, where do you think Bruno is in his career right now? Is he at his peak right now, or do you think his performances will stay at this level? Eh, His plateau is also quite high, by the way. Correct. Even his performance plateaus, even if they dip a bit, that is still a quite high because of the numbers you've just shown. Because being in a table with KDB, Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, David Silva, and having better numbers than a David Silva, that's I think a par above. So where do you think he is in his career right now? Let's forget that his age. I'd say forget his age because he has never relied on speed. He's always fit for the team.
Yeah.
That's why I say forget his age.
He,
Where do
he's
you
a
think he is?
fitness monster, no doubt about that. I think he is pretty much at his peak right now. However, I hope rather than believe at this stage is United is going to be smart in the window. United is going to create a team over the next couple of windows that will become competitive. And once we have few of those right players playing in the right system, you could see, even though on the pitch there might be a slight dip in his performance in terms of how much he's able to contribute to the game, but his influence will still remain for at least next 2 to 3 seasons, is what I have a feeling. And you were earlier talking about that Ruben Amorim quote during the press conference, the last press conference. The moment the reporter started saying Real Madrid, he started nodding his head no. And then he went on to complete the answer, and his completed the complete answer was that he is somebody who will consistently give you 30 goal contributions. You cannot let go of a player like that, and I have already told Bruno that myself. So it clearly seems to me that Amorim wants to build the team around Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes will be at the heart of it. He can play that inside forward number 10. He can play that, midfielder who would sit ahead of that destroyer kind of a midfielder profile. And he's thriving in this role now. So over the next couple of years, I see this team getting better, and which is where maybe Bruno's stats will get better. And Amarim said that our goal is to win Premier Leagues. We need players like Bruno who will help us win the Premier League. So that's the ultimate dream. I would love for Bruno to win the Premier League with us, but we'll come to that.
Yeah, we had a lot of ex-legends point a finger at Bruno because he's been made captain. Because we have seen Roy Keane, aim some bad words at him. We have seen Paul Scholes, not being super kind in his assessment of Bruno. But it hasn't been the case that all previous captains of United have been, as successful as, say, a Roy Keane. There have been, captains.
Just on that Roy Keane thing, Roy Keane himself has lost his cool multiple times on the pitch. Now, Bruno may be fussing over a yellow card or certain referee results, but he's doing it for the team. As long as it is not impacting the team's performance, I am all for it. Roy Keane, in his passionate moments, has gone on to, maybe kick a player, headbutt, short headbutt, or whatever, and gotten a red card, which I think is worse. I think that sort of a passion doesn't really do well for the team, right? So I think I don't hold any of those arguments or in high regard, to be honest.